Drag racing fan, Monday morning racer here, coming to you live from the showroom at strutmasters.com in Roxborough, North Carolina. Look, let me do some further housekeeping. If you are riding low, definitely strutmasters.com can help you out. But you also need to check out Gearhead Coffee. They make some great coffee, and they're also have this great motorsports and gearhead theme throughout, no matter what the coffee is. I personally like their Texas Pecan Beadlock. It's kind of got an off-road theme. Tastes like liquid candy when you put a little cream in it. So you definitely want to check out Gearhead Coffee. Promo code MMR10 for 10% off. All right, let's dive in tonight to a show that I am definitely excited for. On tonight, Amanda Busick, NHRA pit reporter. She's usually there at the top end. And also Colton Jordan. And I'm going to let him explain later his deal that he's got with the ADRL, the American Drag Racing League. So, first up, Amanda Busick. Let me bring her in. How you doing, Amanda?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I feel like I need to get a coffee now. I'm starting with some club soda, but I'll hit you up on that coffee later. Don't forget about me. We just found out I'm only about an hour away from you, so I can meet you halfway for it.
Awesome. Glad to meet halfway for some coffee. I definitely like the Gearhead Coffee. I also, Lou Santiago lives in the same home that I do when he's here doing his Strutmasters thing, and he has turned me on to Cafe Bustelo or something like that. It comes in this yellow can. It's pretty good coffee. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. So, Amanda, look, thank you for being on. Before we go any further and we talk about the serious questions of who is and who is not that going to be at Indy 1 and what's going to transpire this weekend, I've got to ask, from a video that you put on social media maybe 6-8 months ago, how does it feel to be the adult life-size downhill Hot Wheels indoor champion?
Oh, man. Are you talking about when I did the slide video?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, so what happened there was that actually was my birthday weekend. And Jamie Howe, my counterpart on NHRA on Fox, had this opportunity to race Road Atlanta for a women's day at the track. And I was like, what better thing to do for my birthday? So with that, I ended up staying at her house, and they have this giant Hot Wheels track in their basement. And after only 3 glasses of wine, I look at it, I'm like, have adults ever gone down this thing? And she's like, all the time. So it's the funny part about me is, and my close friends know this, I actually like to prescribe to things that start with S's. I love skipping, I love swing sets, and I love slides. I will never, I have not met a slide I didn't like. So if I'm ever just randomly in a place and there's a slide, I'm getting on it. And I got on it, and it was the best thing ever. You want to know the funny part? That video still gets like, and I kid you not, it still gets like 300,000 views a week because it just went all over the place. Crazy.
I know I liked it and shared it on Monday Morning Racer when I saw it. I thought it was such a cool moment and free-spirited moment. And I was also concerned about you running into not the sand pit, but the table.
Yeah. It was close. It got close. It got close.
It got close. And I can't help but I think we need to advocate for like 8 of those and put it on the hill at Epping and let pro drivers go down the hill at Epping. I think that's what needs to happen.
That would be a hell of a driver intro.
Yes, it definitely would be. It definitely would be.
It's
well,
like,
look,
slide right onto the starting line.
Slide right on. Slide right on. I agree. I liked it. It was cool. It was cool. Well, Amanda, look, we're going to come back at you. Let me bring in Colton Jordan now. So, Colton, man, it is good to have it. Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How about you, man? There in near St. Louis. How's it going?
It's going great, man. It's a little warm out here, but that's expected this time of year in St. Louis. But we've got fast race cars out here. ADRL to return to Worldwide Technologies Raceway. It's been a few years, so it feels good to be back.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm glad that the ADRL has fired back up. And look, let's dive into it real quick with, bringing you in on this Between the Slicks episode. What's your deal with the ADRL? What's going on?
So the first ADRL event of 2020 was Dragpalooza at the Texas Motorplex. And the how I got my start in drag racing announcing was I started at the Texas Motorplex. As a kid from Northeast Louisiana, it was something I never thought I would ever be able to do. And so through my partnership with the Motorplex, I decided I'd watched ADRL when I was a kid and just marveled at pro extreme cars. And so when I first got wind that ADRL was coming back to the Motorplex, I had to be there. And I had a commitment on that Saturday to announce a dirt track race in Ardmore, Oklahoma. So I went on Friday night and introduced myself to Kenny Nowling. He had heard me announce some Midwest Pro Mod races with the legendary Al Tucci. And he offered me, he said, hey, I would like to bring you in as the new voice of ADRL for the next 3 years. And I gladly accepted. And it's probably one of the biggest steps I've taken in my career so far. Gotten to do a lot of amazing things. Got to see a lot of amazing races so young in my career. And this has got to top the charts. And as you can tell, we're actually testing right now here in St. Louis. And it's going to be a phenomenal weekend.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a phenomenal weekend, and we'll dive into the weekend in its particulars in a few moments. So I'm going to bring back in Amanda, and I'm going to go ahead and put y'all to the test. We're going to dive into this. So I like to challenge my folks that come on the show and test their wit and their knowledge of the sport. And, well, it makes me seem like I have infinite knowledge because I got all the answers I studied up for it. So, sorry. First off, before we go into the drag racing trivia, let me bring up this comment, say hello to the boss here, Chip Lawson. Chip, thank you for watching. Mr. Strutmaster himself, I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you for making it all possible. All right. Are you all ready for the first question?
I don't know. I think Amanda's got me on this.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, wait, before we start, I think the best part about your introduction is you're like, I just love that you're 20 years old and you have this long career. It's amazing. Are you 20 or 21 yet?
19, actually.
I see. I'm 2. That's great. That's awesome, Colton. Congratulations, buddy. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Just make
Very
sure
good.
you're clear of Chris Blair while you're in St. Louis.
Absolutely. Chris Blair, this is an amazing facility. My first time here to St. Louis, this place is spotless. I could eat off the bathroom floor. I'm not going to, but I could.
Him and Curtis Francois run a great shop out of there.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely looking forward to getting out there. I've never been myself, so
It's wonderful.
definitely looking forward to getting out there because I haven't found anywhere yet that challenges Norwalk. Norwalk to me is like the Disneyland of drag strips. And I've heard good things about Gateway, so I can't wait to get out there. All right, question number 1 in drag racing trivia. So to how do you answer? Well, we go back old school as if we're in kindergarten. Just raise your hand, whoever first. I'll go with that. So question number 1. Oh, by the way, the kind of like whose line it is anyway. The rules are made up. The points don't matter. But we're going to have fun anyway. So what pro stock driver that is even out in the pits to this day is known as the Professor? Colton, you beat out Amanda.
Warren Johnson.
Yes, Warren. All right, so Warren Johnson to Colton Jordan there. He's out in the lead. Second question.
Even better watching him kick everyone's ass in Gainesville last year.
Yes. Phenomenal.
Yes.
Still got it.
So, second question here. It's that I've got the last national event for the NHRA was in Arizona.
Oh.
That motorsport park also has another form of drag racing at its facility. Amanda, go ahead.
It's a drag boat.
Yes, drag boats on the lake there.
Which,
yes.
I have actually had the privilege of announcing drag boat racing as well. If drag racing fans have never been to a drag boat race, you have to go. It is simply a spectacle that is beyond fathomable unless you're there.
So I think pretty much all drag racers are nuts, especially the Top Fuel Harley guys, but drag boat drivers, 100%. Would never get on one of those things.
Yeah, drag boat racing is impressive, and it hasn't been that long that I mean, there was a lot of deaths in drag boat racing at one time. I mean, getting into a boat on water was definitely, your life was on the line. I'm glad it is safer.
The Texas racer Hill actually almost lost his life in a drag boat, and that was the final time that he ever stepped foot into a drag boat was Eddie Hill's last run in an alcohol boat, and he told Ursi that he would never get in one again because they thought he was going to go blind. Yep. His eyes stayed bloodshot red for about 2 months after that. So it's very dangerous. I have almost seen some near crashes, and I'm telling you, when drag boats crash, there's no give.
Yeah, no.
Bad. It's bad.
What current NHRA driver was a former drag boat driver?
Scott Palmer.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
Scott Palmer. Also, let's throw in Kim Davidson, who, from what I understand, will be making a debut sometime this year.
That is true.
Throw that in.
Kevin Kinsley has also driven a drag boat before as well.
That's right.
I did not know that.
That's right.
Yes.
Scott still has his boat, correct?
He does.
Yes. Tommy still has the boat that Scott used to drive. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Drag boat racing there at Wild Park. Okay. Amanda Busick does a walking interview known as Walk 1,000 Feet. If Amanda were to interview on a 1/10 mile drag strip, how many feet would that be?
Ooh.
What?
I'm not very good at math, so this is going to be tough for me. Would it be 2 feet? Or if it was a full quarter mile?
Are we talking about quarter mile or nitro race?
Pro mod. So, if you were on a 1/10 of a mile drag strip, how many feet would that be?
Oh shit! So what's a mile?
5,280 feet, right?
Somewhere around.
582 feet.
Very close. Very close.
I'm gonna say 52.80. I don't know.
No, it'd be 10% would be 500 something. 562?
All right, Amanda.
I don't know what a mile is.
You were very close. You got to flip the numbers. It was
I have the Louisiana public school education at work here.
It is 528 feet. Is what a 50 mile is. Yes.
Yeah,
so
5,286 feet is in a mile, right?
Right. So a lot of small drag strips that probably shouldn't even be having drag races because they have no shutdown areas. They run 1/10 of a mile, and right. So they are out there, and I'm glad that you walk 1,000 feet because I enjoy your interviews, and it's not 528 feet. So. All right, next question.
I'm glad I get to talk for a living and not do math.
Me too.
Hey, me too. The only reason I know is because I asked Google. I admit. So I'm going to count this. Y'all are tied right now. We're going into the second amber light down the Christmas tree. This Top Fuel champion, funny car winner, and occasional sprint car driver began in sand drag racing.
Oh.
Colton, go ahead.
I think I might. Is it J.R. Todd?
That's an interesting one. I didn't think of JR. It's not the one on my mind, but he did hop in a sprint car last year at the little dirt track there at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Oh, okay. I know who else it could be. But Amanda, you get a shot.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda. You got a
Oh. It started in sand drag.
You said Top Fuel champion, and it didn't register to me at first.
Yeah, Top Fuel champion, funny car. I was going to say Cruz Pedregon, but he wasn't in Top Fuel.
I'll give you a hint.
Is it Sean Langdon?
It is not Sean Langdon. Here's your hint.
Yeah,
a very good friend of Ron Caps
Gary Selsey.
Gary
Oh,
Selsey.
duh. Yeah, of course it's Gary. I thought I was thinking current driver.
Now that
worries,
is
yes.
interesting because I did not know that Gary used
Yep.
to sand drag race. I did know that
Yep.
he used to go roundy round, but I did not know that he sand drag race. That's cool.
Yep.
That was the big appeal with Alan Johnson.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Right, yeah, it's very, he's one of those that's got another interesting kind of route to drag racing. You know, I kind of like, like a Doug Coletta, former sprint car racer at some of our Austin Proc. You know, these guys who from other form of motorsports say, you know what, that's not that crazy. I'll go do it. I find it fascinating. I find it extremely fascinating. Okay, moving forward. Worldwide Technology Raceway is better known as a single word in regard to a stainless steel monument. Oh, wow. Who? Okay, be honest.
Wait, are you going to be honest? I was first.
Okay, go ahead, Amanda. Go ahead.
Gateway.
Gateway, yes, Gateway. Gateway. Very
That's
good.
why
Gateway.
it's called the Gateway Drags here at the ADRL.
Bingo.
because
Gateway Drags.
Kenny Nowling.
American Drag Racing League. Gateway
Kenny
Drags.
Nowling has known this place as Gateway for years. So he said it is known as the Gateway Drags. He said, I love Worldwide Technologies as a marketing partner. He said, but it'll always be Gateway.
No, it's really cool. I was actually out there. I was out there last year for the announcement of the naming rights that when Gateway brought on Worldwide Technology as a partner. That's a pretty big deal. That's a good sponsor to have.
Absolutely.
It definitely is. And, in the day and time we're in, any track getting naming rights and having support and help, it's big. It's big in the day and time.
Kind of the background there, they also represent Bubba Wallace. But Worldwide Technology is it's a company in St. Louis, and it's actually one of 4 Black billionaires in the United States. So he gets really excited about the idea of extending STEM or engineering capabilities through kids through racing. So it's a really awesome partnership.
That is definitely cool. That is definitely cool. And need more of those throughout motorsports wherever they are at. Definitely. That is a cool deal. All right, guys, we got 2 more lights on the Christmas tree, green light and red light. These are supposed to be more challenging. I hope they are. And from what I can tell, it's still tied. So y'all work this out. Because the way it works, if you get the last question, you can win the whole thing. So green light. What constitutes a competition single in drag racing opposed to a buy run? Colton.
If your competitor breaks on the burnout or such as that, if the car starts but cannot stage, it's a competition buy.
Right. So like a buy run comes about because there's an odd number of cars. But a competition single is, in your case, they can't answer the call or they break. They were supposed to be there, but they're not able to run. That is a competition.
Or in the case of Robert Height, he leaves his car on the track at the finals in 2019.
Yes.
That was one of the best moments of the entire year. Minus Erica and Greg, that was a very great moment of the finals last year.
Yes, definitely.
Very dangerous, but miserable.
Yes. That I was there in Pomona, and I'm in the stands filming the finals and getting what I can for the YouTube channel for my resources. And Robert Height begins his burnout, and I stop following him because I expect him to let off the throttle, and he does this near full track burnout. And then I pan to Jack, get his burnout, and I go back. I'm like, "Where's Robert? I haven't seen him." And I pan back. And he hops out of the car. So impressive moment. And then I was able to capture. I still haven't figured out who it was. I'll have to get your help, Amanda. But John Force and some gray shirt NHRA official were having a very animated conversation over what happened. I don't know what was, but it was,
Well, I believe that the theory is that was purposeful burnout, and the defense is that wasn't supposed to happen. So
Yeah, I heard.
It's the emoji. It's the emoji.
I heard that fuel sloshed in the fuel tanks that you use so much on the burnout that it sloshed out and wasn't able to go back to the motor, and it ended up dying, killing itself from not having fuel. So if that's true, then I mean, what can you do?
It was great. Awesome burnout.
It was great. It was great. It was great. And the whole 2019 finals was just epic. I mean, with Greg Anderson.
Best day of my career.
With Greg Anderson stacking the deck to take that shot against Erica, Giuliana Salinas and her way to victory lane, Robert, I mean, it's just, awesome day for drag racing. I mean,
Steve Torrance and Cameron Ferret, that was another big moment of that day.
Yes.
Just,
I mean, huge day.
Full of great things. That'll definitely be on the top probably 20 lists of NHRA national events.
Definitely.
And I said this the other day because we actually talked about it. You had all that drama, and we still had 4 championship trophies to hand out. Because normally we have like maybe 1 or 2 of them will wrap up in Vegas. All of them on Sunday morning, no one had a trophy. And the one that looked most certain, Andrew Hines, red lights, super out
Yeah.
See, and
it's amazing.
Some people don't like the countdown scenario in NHRA, but it's because of the countdown scenario, the points resetting at Indy and things like that, and especially double points like they had last year at Pomona, that gives us those championship runs like we've seen. And I think it's very, very exciting and very good for the sport.
It's definitely cool. That was, and if every drag race could be like the 2019 finals, I mean, that would just be spectacular. But,
I don't think my heart could handle it.
I know what you're saying. All right, folks, last question. So with NHRA drag racing returning to Indianapolis, but not the U.S. Nationals this time, I've got to ask, before 1961, the U.S. Nationals were held where? And there's 3 answers you could propose. Colton.
Was one of them Ontario Motor Speedway?
Not from any record I can see, no. Amanda, go ahead.
I believe Pomona was one.
From what I've got. And,
or there was one in Kansas, Great Bend, Kansas, too.
Oh, yes, very good. Actually, that's the first. Great Bend, Kansas is the first. So it goes from Great Bend, Kansas to Oklahoma City at the fairground.
Okay.
And then Detroit Dragway in Detroit, Michigan. In 1961, they hold the U.S. Nationals.
So the only reason why I thought that maybe it was Pomona, because the Big Go is shortened for the Big Go West, right?
I believe so, yes.
So maybe we just stopped west at Oklahoma. I don't know.
Well, here's an interesting fact. The first Winter Nationals was not actually held in Pomona. It was held in Daytona, Florida, a part of Speed Weeks.
Yeah.
When you start digging enough, it's like, I mean, the story basically is Bill France, the creator of NASCAR, and Wally Parks are like over each other's shoulders counting the ticket, and not trusting each other on this, this deal that they were collaborating on. And if my dad tells me correctly, when his days early in drag racing in the late 60s, him and Gene Comer and the Willis, they were actually there for that event.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
can
I ask a trivia question just to see if you two can get it?
Why not?
So I don't remember the exact year, but it was back in the 1960s. Don Garlits actually went on strike against the NHRA, and he held a couple of events on his own. Where were those events held? The track is still there and still operating to its fullest potential today.
Was it somewhere in Louisiana?
It was not, sadly. But it was at another track that I have worked at.
In the 60s that you have worked at? Okay. Where would Don go if he can't race? Give us a hint.
Yeah, let's have a hint.
It's in the Midwest part of the United States. It's rather close to another of those tracks that held the U.S. Nationals at one time.
Okay.
Great.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think
This track is currently an NHRA sanctioned track, not a national event sanctioned track, but it is a Division IV racetrack.
Well, I now know on my Division 4.
It was Tulsa Raceway Park.
Tulsa. Okay, that's awesome.
Tulsa.
I
Yes.
believe held 3 events there, and they were called National Opens at that time.
Okay. Well, if I remember, didn't Tulsa have a strong AHRA history at one point? Like, weren't they heavily involved?
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
They do a ton of the Pro Mod, right? The world, Midwest Pro Mod, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Throwdown in T-Town. Yep.
I see. I follow. I'm sure everyone does, but Ellen.
Throwdown in T-Town. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Here's a quick little tidbit too. Whenever I went to work, I was the office manager at Tulsa Raceway Park for a short time, and Ellen was moving from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was moving from Ennis, Texas. We actually stayed in the same hotel for a week before we could get our own places. So we've been through the ringer together. So I love Ellen
her. She always has a smile on her face.
I call her Mama Els.
Oh, she's great.
Great lady.
Well, folks, the winner of the drag racing trivia tonight on Between the Slicks is Amanda Busick. Amanda Busick is the winner.
I told you she was going to whoop me.
There you go. She gets it. She gets it. Amanda, there is no trophy, and it is just Monday Morning Racers, so there's not any really bragging rights either. So thank you for participating. And in fact, let's go to you in particular, Amanda, and let's discuss about the weekend coming up. Now, you're not going to be there. You've already told me that. You're going to be there for Indy 2. Yep. So we'll miss you at Indy 1. So do fill us in who is going to be there handling the top end. And then I want you to also speak on, so in the last several years, people have been saying NHRA Pro Stock is dead or it will die. And they have like 22 cars entered. So talk to me about who's going to be at the top end and NHRA Pro Stock.
So at the top end will be my counterpart, John Kernan. He is taking duties for us the first weekend in Indy. On the call as well, Jamie Howe will be pit side. And then, as you just alluded to, Pro Stock, my coworker, Bruno Massel, is going to be driving this weekend in Pro Stock. He has joined part of the elite team. But no, if you look through the entry list, the Pro Stock category is very exciting, especially when you look at all the second generation kids popping up in there. Chris McGahe's son is driving this weekend. You have Troy Coughlin Jr. coming into the class. I think it's going to be, you add in the fact that there's 2 qualifying sessions, be ready. Q1 is going to be something to be seen, because if you're not in after that session, all pressure's on you for Q2.
Yes, definitely. I definitely think probably maybe out of all the other classes, Pro Stockers, they really want to make sure they're in the show, and because the field is so tight. The field is so tight in Pro Stock racing that with like the 22 cars that are entered, obviously there's several going home. If you stumble in that first round of qualifying, man, round 2 is going to be a daunting task to be able to make it into the field. So, with you saying that, what do you think is going to be the challenge for these teams with only 2 qualifying sessions? And do you think this is something that the NHRA should seriously look at in the future, of even limiting to 2-day events and only, 3 or 2 rounds of qualifying beyond 2020?
I think that, I think that rumor's been there for a couple of years, right? Or, looking at a way to enhance and adjust your business should always be top of mind for any sports league. And, I kind of equate it back to the fan, right? Like when you come to an event, what is going to be the most desirable and pleasing experience for the person that's spending their hard-earned money to come see our product and our entertainment. So I think it'll definitely be, we can see the example this year with the 2-day races and get feedback and see how that goes. I'm not involved in those conversations of strategy and decisions that the league make, but you even hear it from the drivers. And if you take 4 qualifying sessions and turn it down to 3 or 2, just the money and cost savings that could be there. But when we go to these 2-day races this season, as I just alluded to in the Pro Stock conversation, that Q1 is going to be something else. And I can't even imagine the pressure on a team when you're not qualified after Q1 and you're heading into Q2. And especially when you look at, even looking at the entry list and Top Fuel and Funny Car, there are big names that might not make the show on Sunday. I will say, though, luckily teams are testing today and testing tomorrow, so at least they're able to see the Indy track and get kind of some data that way. But, when we show up in Denver or we show up in Brainerd, Saturday is your first shot at that track. So it's going to get everyone. I don't know if you can put an analysis on what this year is going to be. I think it's survival of the fittest. And it'll be pretty cool and amazing to see what people come up with and what they survive with.
Sure. I feel like 2020, the year with a huge asterisk next to it, is going to be a year that when it's all said and done with, honestly, I dare say it's going to make the championship mean that much more.
100%. I do not think this is a throwaway season at all. You tell me what team survives 16 weeks in a row together. Tell me what team has enough equipment to go track to track each week. I think it hats off to the person that raises the championship trophy at the end of this year.
Definitely. Well, folks, look, we're going to come back to Amanda. We're going to go over to Colton just for a few moments, but we'll pull the hot iron back out and talk some NHRA drag racing.
Do I get to tag him in? There you
go. He's in. Colton, man, look, you were there for the American Drag Racing League at Worldwide Technology Raceway Park. And it was a pretty crazy drag palooza. I was there, and so Kenny broke glass, literally, and sliced a fan's arm. There is a double Pro Mod crash, and that double Pro Mod crash opens up the way for a Frankie Madman Taylor over a red light competition single. Also then a Wesley B. Jones that's not able to start and a hamster that's not able to make it because of a blown supercharger. He wins in like Warren Johnson style. It's crazy. So what's the craziness in store for us at the Gateway Drags?
Well, if I was a pro extreme drag racer at Dragpalooza, after that event, after Frankie won, I would have been following him around waiting for the horseshoe to fall out of his pocket because, man, he had it going on. And if anybody can pull off a win like that, it's Frankie the Madman Taylor. He's so skilled, and his brother, Paul Taylor, is such a good tuner for that hot rod. I mean, they are the quickest door slammer pro mod car in the world, and they prove it all the time. And sometimes when it's your day, it's just your day. But here this weekend, I think the biggest hurdle is going to be who can get A to B down this racetrack, because it's going to be 135, 145 degrees sometimes. And when you're trying to tame, 4,000 horsepower engines in a short wheelbase door car, that's not always the easiest thing to do. So it's going to be a tuner's race, and it's going to be a driver's race. Whoever can manage the power and whoever can use the managed power to get down the racetrack with their right foot, that's who's going to win this race this weekend.
So very similar to Texas. In fact, Texas had atrocious conditions. I mean, I was on the line filming. It was hot. It was definitely hot. And you're going to have it again there in Gateway. I personally, though, love drag racing in those conditions because it really shows the mettle, as it were, of these competitors and these tuners, these drivers, especially these pro mods.
Of course, as you can tell, we have testing going on currently, but earlier before we got in to do this interview, we were also, testing on the racetrack. We started at 3. I don't think the first car went down the racetrack until about 5:15, somewhere up in there, just because of how hot it was. But, Pro Extreme used to be the biggest door car class in drag racing because it was so unpredictable. Whether the track conditions were good, whether they weren't, you never knew what was going to happen whenever the driver dumped the clutch or let go of the button. And it's still that way to this day. It's just they're going faster. Earlier today, and I can't remember, it was Chuck Wake. He left the starting line, and about 300 foot out, the car started moving toward the center line, and I was just like, hold on to it. And when I tell you he got as close to that center line as I get to a box of donuts, I mean, it was close, very, very close. And he never lifted, and went like 395 at 191 miles an hour. Beautiful pass. That's the unpredictability right there as Craig Sullivan shakes the tires 330 foot out.
Track temperature 114 degrees.
Well, man,
Track
look,
temperature right now 114 degrees, and the sun is finally setting behind the grandstands.
it's finally getting in some shade, and it's still 114. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. Atrocious conditions, but it makes for great drag racing. Yes.
Absolutely.
Give me a hot track. It equalizes the field. It makes that guy who doesn't have all the horsepower have that opportunity and chance to hook it up and get down the track and wheel that thing. I love it. I love it. Give me a hot, slick, bumpy track.
Oh, me and Craig Sullivan were talking about it earlier, and Sully was telling me, he said, I'm not going to go down this racetrack and run 363 in a nighttime qualifier. He said, but if I come up for round one and the racetrack's 145 degrees, he said, I know I can make my car go 381, 382, and I could very well possibly get that round win. He said, it's just going to be an A to B drag race, just like it is at every race. But I got a feeling this race is going to be a little bit different because it's hot, it's humid, and the track, it's hot, literally.
All right, Colton. So one last question for you here before we dive into some drag racing story time. What exactly is Pro Extreme for folks that might not know? Because, you know, there's Pro Mod, there's Pro Nitrous in PDRA, there's Pro Boost in PDRA, but in the ADRL, what makes Pro Extreme extreme?
Okay, so Pro Extreme is basically a regular, like you would see an NHRA Pro Mod car, except instead of roots blowers on these cars, they have what you call screw blowers. So a screw blower just makes more boost. It has a bigger rotor inside the blower, and it's able to make more boost. You're able to turn the supercharger faster than what you would be able to do a roots blower. So screw blower makes more boost, and in turn makes more power. Roots blowers are what are legal in NHRA. The majority of the Pro Extreme screw blown cars here in ADRL run about 127% overdrive, which is a lot when you look at, I believe, NHRA's overdrive numbers in Pro Mod are in the 20 percentile range, so or somewhere up in there. So when you talk about 100% more overdrive in a supercharger, you can push a lot more air through it. You can make a lot more power. And in Pro Extreme, the only rule that there is for a screw-blown car is you have to weigh 2,450 pounds. Torque converter, clutch car, transmissions, don't matter. As long as you weigh 2,450 pounds with a screw blower, you can run in Pro Extreme. And nitrous cars, here's the kicker. Nitrous cars, no weight minimum. You can bring a nitrous car here that weighs 2,200 pounds, and we'll send you down the racetrack. Jim Widener here has a race car that weighs about 2,375 pounds. It's a nitrous car that usually runs in PDRA. He's running in Pro Extreme this weekend, and he made a good pass earlier, so he definitely has a shot at winning this thing.
What? No weight limit? That is insane. That's why I love Pro Extreme.
Pro Extreme.
I love it. I love it. Pro Extreme. No weight limit. And it sounds like something my dad and Jim Comer were doing back in the late 60s. Oh, we don't need a roll bar. Let's just go out here and run as fast as we can. Wild. Just wild. All right. Well, folks, we're going to give these two a few moments to bring forward that best drag racing story that they have. And since I have media types on the show tonight, let me start off and give you the stories that I've got from myself being a media hack, in no way professional well, such as Amanda or Colton. But in the little short time I've been doing the gig that I'm doing, I have encountered some drivers that I want you to know that though they were having tough days, challenging days, they were still professional and gave a nobody like me the time of day and gave a word. Because oftentimes fans will say, oh, that guy's a jerk. Oh, that guy's rude. We never know when you might have found them. And also, I want to just give a few stories to two drivers so that you know that they're not jerks. They are professionals. They will give you the time of day in some of the most challenging conditions. So, Ron Katz, stand-up guy. I really like Ron Katz. I was a fan before ever doing this, and getting into this and interacting with him the little that I've been able to, I'm even more of a fan. And here's why. So, Atlanta Dragway, first day ever out, I'm with a camera trying to get interviews. He's kind enough to give me an interview. But later on, U.S. Nationals. And if you don't know, Ron Katz is having like a Dale Earnhardt complex with the U.S. Nationals, as Dale Earnhardt had with the Daytona 500. He can't win the thing. There he is, U.S. Nationals last year. He had the race won, and something on the left side of that car, cylinders, and he gets passed up at the end near the line. And I was shocked. I was in the stands watching, and I'm like, what just happened? So I come out of the stands, and I see Ron Katz, signing autographs. He's interacting with fans, and not just brushing fans off. He's taking time to talk with them. And I was able to walk up to him after this man who is trying to win the biggest drag race in the world. It's like really the only thing he needs to check off his list, and say, Ron, can I have a few moments for an interview? And he said, we need to make it quick. I got to get somewhere, but yes. That's class, and that is some professionalism. And I also got a smile out of him that day because I asked him what his favorite ice cream was. So, also, I want you to know, same day, U.S. Nationals, Cruz Petragon had not been having a good year, much less a good U.S. Nationals. Never had talked to Cruz before, never had walked up to him and asked for an interview. And Cruz Petragon, I walk up after he gets done with a few fans, and he's like, sure, man, let's do it. So I want you to know, these drivers, they're human. They have bad days. Remember that before you call them a jerk. But even on the worst of days, there are some of those drivers out there. They are professionals, they have class, and they're still fans of the sport, and they want to interact with you. So that's my story. Let me bring in Amanda Busick. Amanda, what is your best drag racing story that you can give us tonight?
I mean, it's hard to narrow it down. I just did, a couple weeks ago, I did a video with Brian Lund on my top moments from the top end, which obviously you have anything from the 2019 finals that we talked about, through Clay Milliken's first win. But I'll throw it back actually to the first interview I ever did on national television. It was back in 2016. And it was with the guy that beat Ron Katz in Indy last year. Do you know who that is?
I'm going to keep you on screen, but honestly, no, I cannot remember. I was still so shocked from the moment.
It was the 16 times. That's right. So the first ever interview that I did on national television, you have to imagine, everyone gets put in moments for the first time, and there's that nervousness and anxiety that's happening because you're visioning how everything's supposed to go, and then you add John Force into the layer, and nothing is ever going to go the way you envision it's supposed to go. So John had just joined Twitter, and we were doing a social media segment. We were in Vegas. It was early in the season, 2016. And we're live. My producer's in my ear. He's counting me down. John's nowhere in the sight yet. He's like slowly walking my way. I'm like trying to signal him off air because my producer's like 10, 9, 8, 7. And I'm like, oh, he's not here. And so, but in pure John Force fashion, it happened to goes off without a hitch. It was funny. Just hearing people not familiar with social media talk about social media is hilarious anyways. So no, that was, it'll always be a dear memory of mine, as it was my first one. And for it to be alongside John Force is no shock, to be honest. So
that is a good drag racing story, that the first interview is with John Force. Let me ask, do you even prepare to interview John Force, or is it just like get a question out and let him go?
No, I do actually. So the thing with, and there's different ways about it too, right? With when I'm with interviewing John and several of the other drivers, some more than others, you have to have very strong eye contact. One of the challenges that we're going to have as we continue this year is a lot of times we rely on lip reading. I like to see a way that a driver is responding, because I can, in a weird way, you can viscerally feel what emotion might be behind what they're saying, even if they're not saying it, kind of thing. So with John, I think he's in the moment. He's real. He's honest. He definitely likes pushing the conversation his way. So the more direct of a question that I can ask him, the more direct and finite I hope to get him in an answer. But it is pretty cool that my time as a broadcaster has been able to be alongside John, because it's fun. You just put on a seatbelt and whatever happens, happens.
Whatever happens, happens. And hey, folks, take notes from the school of Amanda Busick. That was some good tips right there. Definitely some good tips. All right, Amanda, hang on. We'll come back to you in the last segment and talk a little bit more about this Indy 1 national event that's coming up. Colton, man, look, talk to me. Your best drag racing story, or just one that you feel is appropriate tonight. Lay it on me, man.
That's the problem, is finding one that's appropriate. If you ever get a chance to talk to Scott Palmer alone, ask him about the beer in the Studezilla Nitro fuel tank. Ask him about that. That was a funny story too, but I can't really tell that one.
It's on my list now.
You got to ask Scott Palmer about it. It was hilarious. I still have the video proof of it. So probably the funniest, and I go based off of humor. So Amanda's, that is an awesome first memory, best story. Mine, I always go off of humor, because that's the kind of person I am. Actually, and I'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes into Stevie Fast Jackson during an interview as well. But my favorite drag racing story so far has been, if you've been to an outlaw race within the past 30 years, you've most likely heard Al Tucci's voice at some point. And Al Tucci is probably the greatest announcer that drag racing has ever seen, in my opinion. And he has mentored me since I first started in drag racing. My very first race was alongside Al Tucci, and he is probably one of the funniest people I've ever met. So earlier this year, we had the Throwdown in T-Town at Tulsa Raceway Park, Midwest Pro Mod Series event. And we had a class there called Pro Street. And, of course, everybody knows the Street Outlaws guys from the Discovery Channel. Daddy Dave was there in the Goliath 2.0 running Pro Street. Well, Al and Dave have known each other for 25 years. And I had met Dave at a race last year, last July. So, he kind of knew who I was. And so Dave comes up in the tower. We had just called Pro Street to the lanes. Dave comes up in the tower, sits down in the chair beside me, and Al's to my left. And I just turned around and said, "What's up, Dave?" And he goes, "Man," he said, "there is 1,000 people at my trailer right now." He said, "I've been shaking hands all day." He said, "I'm just trying to get away for a little breather for a second." Well, Al Tucci, in his infinite humor and wisdom, picks up the microphone, turns it on, and goes, "Hey, Daddy Dave's just been spotted at the snow cone stand." And as soon as he said that, the rush of people, it was like a herd of elephants trampling over each other, flooding out of the grandstands to the snow cone stand. And I could not breathe for probably 5 minutes after that. I was laughing so hard. Me and Tucci were just dying. And Daddy Dave was just sitting there just shaking his head. And we look out into the crowd, and there are these 3 little kids that are running over each other trying to get down the grandstands. And Dave was finally like, "Okay, Al, you got to tell them the truth, because that's just terrible. Don't do that to those kids." And so finally Al gets on there and he goes, hey, false alarm, everybody. It was just a guy that looked like Dave, and just kind of left it at that. And it was probably the funniest thing I have ever witnessed and been a part of in my entire life. And that was amazing. Here's a little tidbit about Stevie Fast Jackson behind the scenes of some of Stevie's interviews. I was fortunate enough to work with Speed Video, the live stream service, to do pit interviews and top end interviews at Lights Out 11 in Valdosta, Georgia earlier this year. And Stevie, everybody knows, when you interview Stevie, you're going to get something good. Well, what I wasn't expecting is what you don't see on camera. And what you don't see on camera, and here's a little bit of behind the scenes, Stevie Fast Jackson, in most of his interviews, never wears shoes because he never has time to put them on after he gets out of the car. There's a little behind the scenes. I just thought it was funny because I looked down at one point when I was giving him an interview, realized he didn't have shoes on, and just kind of cracked up. It was funny.
We instead of shoeless Joe, it's shoeless Jackson.
Exactly. Exactly. It was hilarious.
We haven't. Thank you, Colton. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Spectacular. Well, okay. Folks, I'm going to bring back in Amanda Busick. We're going to talk a little bit more about Indy here. So, Amanda, obviously, the cat's been let out of the bag, and the big news is what? John Force Racing is not at Indy 1, at least, that we can see. And that is huge news. But NHRA has talked about it. Others have talked about it. You were on Mark Caruso's with, their show on the Caruso Family Racing. Y'all got to talk about it a little bit about that. Big news. And though that has opened the way, my thing has always been so far that I'm talking to the little teams. I'm talking to the struggling teams and things of that nature and trying to get those stories. So I've got to ask, with John Force Racing being out, Scrappers Racing not showing up, in particular in fuel, Top Fuel and Funny Car, who do you think is the individual, the team that can make the most strides with those type of competitors being out?
It's funny you say that because we had our content meeting yesterday, and if you go back to 2018, the drama between Steve Torrence and Tony Schumacher was electrifying. And the idea that Tony Schumacher is going to be at both Indies, Steve Torrence joined the entry list on Monday. I am so excited to watch these guys go at it because they're such fierce competitors. I'm not saying that other drivers don't leave everything on the line, but you can just see the intensity in both of them. And you have the reigning world champion versus the 10-time Indy winner and the top fuel winner of all time. So I think the drama and the excitement around those matchups that potentially could happen this weekend. Actually, the last, and I'm pretty sure we were confirming this, the last matchup that Tony Schumacher had was at the finals in Pomona in 2018. His last round, he lost to Steve Torrence. So I'm sure that Tony's looking to get back in the saddle as well. But I love the way that you just flipped that question. I'm sure you wanted me to answer stuff about John Force Racing or those kind of things. I honestly don't have an update other than what we talked about the other day on the Caruso show. John Force Racing hasn't released a statement. For me, I think that, I hope, we can get this COVID stuff behind us because it would be a shame if John Force was not able to have a retirement year for himself and obviously for the fans.
Definitely. And, I say that in wanting to flip that question simply because I just think there's so many great stories in drag racing, and John Force Racing, because of the dynamo personality he is, does tend to dominate it. And I'm a John Force fan. I mean, I used to go, my home event is the Southern Nationals, and I remember being in diapers in the grandstands and just loving that half-track burnout that John Force used to do. I mean, that was a highlight of Under the Lights and Funny Car qualifying on a Friday night. But, there's guys out there like a Justin Ashley who
Sure.
I think can, they've got to go race. They've got to get out there. I mean, sitting 6th in points and most of the competition ahead of him is not there. He's got to be there. And then I look at like Lex June with Lance Larson. This is going to be their first race out. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. And you got the guys like Terry Totten showing up. I mean, there is so much opportunity in this year, in this moment at Indy 1. It's outstanding. It is outstanding. And I love, like you mentioned, I feel like we're almost going back into the late 90s of drag racing with some of the characters that are coming out of the woodwork and some of the matchups that we just might get. So Indy 1's shaping up to be one of the most fascinating drag races in a long time.
I mean, look at Alex Miladinovich. He picked up a sponsor to come do these 2 races, and his interview in Pomona when he qualified for his first national event it's been one of my favorites of the season. So I think you're going to get a lot of those moments as this season unfolds, and especially these 2 races in Indy.
Yes. The 2 races in Indy have so many storylines, and I'm expecting that.
Chad Green in a funny car. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. Chad Green. I'll bring in Colton in. So, Colton, tell us, Chad Green, Pro Mod, how significant is that coming into nitromethane funny car racing?
So Chad Green, who I've gotten the pleasure to hang out with, he and Dean Marinas and Pat Musey many times at Midwest Pro Mod races. And we knew that Chad had tested and gotten his license in Tim Wilkerson's funny car. He had talked about it a little bit and how he wanted to do it. And after his last crash last year at the U.S. Nationals, I, in my opinion, didn't think that it was going to happen this year. And it was definitely a shock to me whenever it was released that Chad would be making his debut at Indy 2 and racing the Pro Mod at the same time. But with Daniel Wilkerson and Tim Wilkerson behind him, pushing him, Chad can drive the wheels off of a race car. I don't care what kind of race car it is. And he's going to jump in there just like he's a pro. I have a feeling about it.
A little more downforce on this one.
That'll help a lot.
Pro Mod guys, I love covering the class. There's so many characters and just awesome people. They scare me.
They're pro stock cars with about 3,000 more horsepower.
I still remember my first season, or the first season for Pro Mod, City Frigo. We're in Houston. And if you've talked, I'm sure you guys have talked with Sydney. He's such a lovely man. He ends up going over the wall, gets airlifted out. The next day, Sydney is standing on the starting line watching the race. I'm like, Sydney, go home. What are you doing? Checks himself out of the hospital. But that's these guys. They live for it.
Yeah, Pro Mod right now. So it's
going to be interesting. Chad's been, burning. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
I think my phone
there were some internet issues there. That was don't worry. Don't worry.
For sure. But what I was saying is Chad's been burning, nitrous in his hot rods for so long. It's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to this nitro. But from what I hear, making his licensing runs and making his test runs in Tim's funny car, you would have never been able to tell that it was anybody else other than Tim Wilkerson in the car.
Wow.
Well, that's good to hear. With Pro Mod being brought up, and I've asked this with drivers, and with you two being so involved in the sport and being around Pro Mods, it seems like to me Pro Mods are at a critical point when it comes to safety at the moment. They have reached an envelope that they are trying to push beyond that maybe they ought not to be pushing beyond, because these cars are doing some strange aerodynamic things when they go airborne. I mean, we've seen door cars nearly have blowovers. Who would have ever thought a door car would have a blowover? And they're almost doing that. And the one at the U.S. Nationals, I believe, the Chad, I mean, it did some strange things in the air. Do you think it's time with Pro Mod to take a serious look at aerodynamics, maybe even dip into like the NASCAR world and like, guys, what did y'all do with roof flaps and things like that? And these cars stay planted to the ground that much better.
And that's definitely something that could be looked at. It's kind of like this question has come up with pro stock cars as well. How do we put more downforce onto a pro stock car without taking away the factory appeal from a pro stock car? And Pro Mod is kind of the same way. It's based around a factory looking vehicle, with a manufacturer. How do we keep that, but yet make it safer as well? I think, in my personal opinion, the best way to do that is the cars need to weigh more. It's harder for a car to fly through the air if it weighs more. And, like I said, Chad Green's car, I think it weighs like 2,500 pounds. Put 100 pounds on him and see if that makes a difference. But the thing is about drag racing with safety wise is you don't know what works until something goes wrong. Always. And then you can go back and assess and see, okay, this worked. Okay, that didn't work. We need to assess that. But you don't really know what's going to happen until something unfortunate like Chad's accident happens.
Yeah. And, we haven't even seen what the Pro Charger guys are going to be up to this season. And from everything that we're hearing, those guys are going to be, hauling the mail. So if you go back to Topeka last season, when you had the Jeremy Ray crash, you had Alex Laughlin hit the wall, you had Stephen Whiteley and Erica almost hit, you had
Todd Tutterow.
That was an extremely challenging day, and because as we've said, and as you were saying earlier, when you interview these people, they're people, right? So a lot of times, what people don't see is they have family members that are rushing to the top end, having no idea the status of their loved one. And when you see that, as our job as a reporter, we're an observer, right? We take in the environment and what's going on. And when you see that one after the other, it's wearing. But it's you have to. These guys know the risk, right? So it's like this. Because I love the class so much, but from the safety standpoint, I think it would behoove anyone to look at protecting the integrity of the car.
Definitely. I think we're at a, what Colton has said, put some weight on them, get it where these things are not going in the air. I mean, who would have thought a door car would be doing the things that it is doing in the air currently? And that just tells you how far they have advanced since, the inception of the class in the, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, it has just come so far for those guys in door slammers. Well, folks, look, last call. We're going to make some predictions here. We're going to make some predictions. We're going to put ourselves on the line, and so people can go back and say, you were wrong. What, you don't know anything you're talking about.
I'm used to that. So
you're used to, yeah, I know. Yeah. People love that. Definitely. So, Amanda, Indy 1 for, I'll keep it to Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock. I know Pro Stock Motorcycles there. If you want to add, fine, but I'll keep it at least to those three. Who wins?
Ooh, so I definitely think in the Top Fuel, you're going to have to put Steve Torrance right there. I mean, he didn't race Pomona, showed up at Phoenix, bam. So I'm going to call Steve Torrance on that one. For Funny Car, we had Tommy Johnson end up stopping Jack Beckton's streak that he had started, but I actually think I'll go back with Jack. That car looks great. And then in Pro Stock, I'm going to, it's Jagger Erica for me. Those two look so strong in Pomona and Phoenix. So granted, I know this is this is more time off than you have in an off season, a lot more. So hopefully the teams will be able to gather some data over from today and tomorrow. But those will be my picks.
All right. Colton, man, who you got there in Indy, but also give me that ADRL champion.
Okay, Indy, I'm going to have to go Top Fuel, Doug Coletta. I think that whole team, they're going to surprise some people. Steve Torrance is on a roll, and he's one of the best out there. But Doug Coletta, I think this off time has lit a fire under him. Funny car, I have to agree with Amanda. I think Jack Bettman has the car to beat right now in funny car, especially with John Force not being there and Robert Height not being there. That also leaves a door open there because they were running well too. And pro stock, I got to go with my favorite drag racer of all time, Jed Coughlin Jr. Favorite of all time, no matter what class. And I'm going to make a prediction in pro stock motorcycle as well. Got to go with my fellow Louisiana native, Jerry Savoy.
Okay.
Jerry Savoy is going to take it in pro stock motorcycle. And pro extreme here at ADRL, that is a tough one because you never know what to expect. Second race back. I got to go Bubba Stanton.
All right, good, strong choices. So I'm not putting myself out there. No, I'll give you my predictions. I will give you my predictions. So I have to agree with you, Colton. I'm thinking Doug Coletta in Top Fuel at Indy, but I will predict runner-up, Justin Ashley. I think that team is on to something. That kid is cool as a cucumber. He can drive, and he is cool as a cucumber. I was there in the pits at Arizona when he was having to strap in the pit. And NHRA is like, come on, it's time to go, or you're out of this thing. And he goes out there and cuts one of the best lights of the weekend in a fuel car and wins the round. The kid is going somewhere. He is going somewhere. So Doug Coletta, I predict runner-up is Justin Ashley. Funny car, I'm going different from all of you. Same camp, though. I'm thinking it's Ron Capps at Indy, but not U.S. Nationals. I think that happens.
No.
I think that happens.
No.
I think that happens. I do.
Hope for the sake of Ron Capps' sanity, he does not win at this race and waits
Oh,
until
man.
the third.
Hopefully, at this point now, hopefully it doesn't happen and Ron never hears this. Pro stock, I predict Bo Butner. Pomona was abysmal, and then he almost lucks his way to the finals in Arizona, but I think he gets it done there in Indy 1. And for the ADRL, I'm thinking Wesley B. Jones wants to get to that winner's circle after not cranking up in the semifinals. I think Wesley B. Jones gets it.
Strong choice.
Certainly a strong choice. Yes, certainly strong. I will say this. Honorable mention. I think Adam, how do you say his name?
Adam Flamholk.
Adam Flamholk.
Mr. Sweden.
Dude, that's the first time I ever encountered him was there in Texas, and I was impressed. I mean, what they were able to do with that machine.
I'll tell you, when we were doing our interview and Adam, Hank Stubbs was actually making a run in Adam's car. Of course, I wasn't upstairs, didn't get to see the numbers, but that car was hauling. He let out of it about 400 feet out. That car is going to be deadly this weekend. So you might be right.
Okay, cool. I like being right. I hope y'all are right too, and I'm not. So hopefully we just all enjoy drag racing back in a big way this weekend. So folks, look, Chip Lofton, Sam Heisen, Tammy Powers, and Scott Malpass, thank you for watching. Hey, let's see. What does Lex June got to say? Lex says, I love talking to Amanda, especially in Bristol last year. She is a class act and very good at her job. Hope to talk a lot more to her. I hope you're able to talk a lot more to her too, Lex. And yes, I feel like this show has had the most class my show has ever had because I've had Amanda Busick on. So it's very cool. And plenty of youth with Mr. Colton Jordan himself on. Guys, thank you for obliging. High five.
Hold on, I got to figure out how this works. Yeah.
There we go. Yes, there we go. Worked it out. Awesome.
I'm in the center. It's easy for me.
Right. Well, guys, look, thank you for being on. Thank you for obliging me. This has been a lot of fun. And whether it's ADRL or NHRA, I hope to see y'all both soon. Let me close this thing out. To you, the drag racing fan, thank you for listening, watching this episode of Between the Slicks with Monday Morning Racer. Catch it next time, which will be next week. I don't know who yet. I'm going to snag some driver, some crew member, some owner, whoever I snag, and we're going to talk some drag racing live here on Facebook, YouTube, wherever else. This has been Between the Slicks. Until next time, God bless and keep the pedal to the metal.